Welcome back, everyone, for another episode of Winning Picks Weekly. I'm the host today, Greg, and I'm here with my main man, Chip Murphy7. Check him out on Twitter. Check out the picks. A great follow on there. Chip, how you doing today?
I'm good, man, because we're talking about this week in college football and we can put last week behind us. And it was a disaster for me. And you just told me it wasn't that good for you.
No,
So
it was
that
not.
made me feel, so that made me feel a little bit better. But yeah, I'm ready to put last week behind me. It was terrible. And yeah, I can't wait to talk about these games.
Yeah, last week, we'll start off maybe with a little did you learn anything last week? I was 2-1 on my best bets. I was going back and forth between Maryland, the spread, and Maryland, the over, because I felt like Purdue could score. Should have went with the over. I went 8-10. It was my first losing week on the show so far this season. So college football has been good to me, but I think I have to kick the Air Force habit. And I got lucky on a lot of them. There's a lot of bets here as I went through, and it was like ticking off winners and losers. I think Ohio State was a half-point cover, a 1-point cover.
Yeah.
Mississippi State under was a 1-point cover. TCU was a half-point cover. So a lot of them, I think even the Maryland over might have been a 1 or 2 point. That thing might have ended at 61. The over was 59. So a lot of things went my way, which allowed me to stay 8-10. Because if they did not, it would have been an absolute disaster of a week. So, I think I have to kick the Air Force habit. For me, is what I learned last week, and keep riding Oklahoma State. So we'll talk about that game. We'll talk about all the games here today. But anything that you picked up for week 6, or are you switching any major plans? Are you going at it from a different angle? You stick it to overs and unders? You going spreads? What are you thinking?
I'm taking more totals this week.
Okay.
Yeah. And because of what happened last week, I stayed away from a lot of totals. But yeah, I'm changing up a lot of things. One thing I learned was try and stay away from the MAC as much as possible because it's been wildly unpredictable. I've been
Yeah.
betting the MAC probably too much just because I like MAC football, and I need to try and stay away from it because it's been super unpredictable. And who knows? I mean, I think I bet, 4 MAC games last week. I lost 3 of them. Fortunately, the one I won was Ohio, and that was my best bet,
Yeah,
one
that
of
was
my
a good
best
one.
bets. Yeah, and they didn't cover by much, I don't think, but they did cover. And yeah, I unfortunately I lost my 2 other best bets. One of them was NC State, and the other one was Bama. So got a little unlucky on the NC State one, but yeah, Bama just didn't show up. That was a brutal one, and probably should have known better than to take Bama, but to cover on that 24.5. But yeah, not to trust the MAC. I took Wisconsin last week and they covered 10.5 against Northwestern, who stinks. But I think I really like, we always talk about the fired head coach and coming back, the assistant taking over. And Wisconsin looks like a team that could be re energized by the head coach firing. And
Big time.
I like them going forward. Yeah.
Okay, that is one thing I did want to talk to you about real quick. Trying to look at how John did. John's not on this week, but I'm trying to just get his best bets last week. I think he went 1-2. I see Wake. That was an easy win. I think Iowa. I don't think they won. I think they played Illinois. That was like 9-6. I think Iowa was favored in that one. And then NC State. I'm blanking on NC State who they played. I think they were away and didn't cover. And I think the quarterback there
No,
might be
they were at
hurt.
home. I think they were at
Oh,
home
they were at
because I
home.
took them because they were at home. And Leary got hurt. Uh, Florida State. They played Florida State.
Yeah, they played Florida State. That's right. And I think they were a favorite and they lost outright, right? Or they won by 2,
Yes.
but they didn't
Oh
cover.
no, they won by 2. They won by 2.
Yeah, so again, mixed week for us on best bets, but we're only doing 3 a week, and it's hard to go 3-0 on those. So, that's what we learned in week 6. I want to get to these Thursday, Friday games because it's the schedule is starting to spread out a little bit. We had a Wednesday game last night. I had Marshall in that. I'll add that to the ticket. That was a loser. So keeping everyone honest here. Marshall minus 10.5 had no shot in that game at all.
Marshall are just frauds
Yeah.
after that Notre Dame win.
They had
That was
one
just
Notre
a
Dame
flash in
win.
the pan.
Yeah.
Remember when Marshall beat Notre Dame one game, and then everybody was talking about how their coach was about to get a Power 5 job off of that
Dude.
one because he was a Saban guy, and now they come crashing down to earth. Fun Belt's no joke, by the way.
Yeah, the real deal. I agree with you on one of the things that you talked about. What did you learn? The MAC. For me, I've tried to stay away a little bit. I kind of wait till MACtion starts when they start playing on those Tuesday, Wednesday games to really start betting them. But I do have a couple MAC bets this week. But let's start again with the Thursday, Friday games. Do you have anything going tonight, Thursday night? And then do you have anything tomorrow on Friday?
I have one on Thursday, one on Friday. This game, we're recording Thursday. This game's about to start. Baylor, West Virginia. I took the over 55. Nothing fancy here. West Virginia's defense stinks. Baylor's defense has been overrated. They just haven't been the same team that they were last year. They lost a lot, so it's not really surprising. It's at West Virginia, so I thought about taking them as a home dog, but thought against it. I just don't trust their defense enough to stay in the game to win, but I think a lot of points are going to be put up in this one. And I liked what I've seen from JT Daniels this year because West Virginia hasn't been very good. Nobody's really talked about his performance, but I think he's been good. And yeah, I think a lot of points are going to be scored in this one. I think the over is 55 right now. It was 54 yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't take it yesterday. Was hoping it would go down, but I got it at 55 right now. Game's about to kick off. So Baylor, West Virginia over 55 on Thursday. And then Friday, tomorrow, SMU's playing Navy. I got SMU minus 12.5. I know it's a big number against Navy because, Navy controls the ball.
Yep.
And, they beat Tulsa last week. We said that by a big, I think it was 41-19. But I like SMU at home. They're not great against the spread so far this year, but I just don't think Navy is that good. I think it was a home game, obviously, last week, and they're going on the road, and SMU is much better at home. They'll be ready to go on this one. They have way more firepower than Navy. I don't think Navy can keep up with them. I like SMU minus 12.5 on Friday.
I like it too because I think Navy had a pretty good game last week. I think they scored a lot more points than they've scored all season. So maybe they come down to earth a little bit. SMU's kind of hit or miss, but I do like, especially with college football, man, there's a lot of teams here that just are great at home and then just aren't that good on the road. Utah might be one of them. A lot of people are talking about that game this week. NC State we've talked about all season. Just not the same on the road as they are on home. So yeah, I could see SMU definitely being one of those games. I got Baylor minus 3 tonight. Like you said, the game started kicking off kind of soon. I just think they're the better team. 3-2 right now in the year, 1-1 in the conference. Offenses seem pretty similar for West Virginia and Baylor. To me, the Baylor defense, I think, is a little bit better. I know they haven't been tested too much, but they've played BYU, only let up 26 points in a double OT game, played Oklahoma State. Yes, let up 36 points, but Oklahoma State can score 50 on most teams. So I think they've just been tested a little bit more than West Virginia. So to me, I think I'm still kind of riding high on that West Virginia first week against Pitt. And I don't know if other people are as well.
I was thinking about that too.
Yeah. They played Texas, was it 2 weeks ago? They were off on a bye I think both these teams were on a bye last week. So they played Texas 2 weeks ago, got thrashed. I don't think Baylor's as good as Texas, so don't get me, wrong on that. But I just think Baylor's a little bit better. So just give me Baylor minus 3 to kick off this weekend. What about Saturday, Chip? There are, 6 ranked versus ranked matchups this weekend. I think it's the most in 10 or 15 years, something like that.
Yeah, it's loaded.
We got a great one to start off, I think, at noon. I guess there's a couple, but Penn State versus Michigan. We've talked about Michigan on this. I think John proclaimed you the Michigan guy last week. I tried to take that claim back, say I'm the Michigan guy. There's a few ways to bet a football game. I picked 2 of them last week for Michigan. Or no, that was Maryland. Michigan, I took first half. I saw some stat 2 or 3 weeks ago. Michigan's incredible in the first half spread. They've lost for me every single week. So I'm done doing that. I'm rocking Michigan -7. I think everyone is on Penn State, and I absolutely love that. I don't think Penn State has... We talked about Michigan not playing anyone. I don't think Penn State's really played anyone. And now they have to go on
Penn
the
State
road.
gave up 30 to Purdue at home, and then they've played nobody since. They've just dominated. Everybody's talking about their defense. They've just shut down a bunch of shit teams, I feel like.
Yeah, and like that...
I agree with you.
Okay. So are you on Michigan
I agree
-7
with
too?
you.
Or are you staying away from
Michigan
this one?
has burned. Michigan has burned me.
Yeah.
Michigan has burned me consistently, and they're. But I'm obviously you have to bet this game. This is one of the marquee games. But I said I'm leaning towards totals this week, and I feel like Michigan's defense just, it's not the same. I feel like Penn State could put up points too. So I'm leaning the over right now, and possibly Michigan at home.
Okay.
But Michigan -7, but I'm not really sold on Michigan. I liked Michigan against Maryland when they came in and turned out the over was the better play.
Yep.
Maybe they'll learn from that game. They'll come out better. Like you said, a lot of people are on Penn State. Maybe Michigan's going to take that personally. But Michigan's record as a home favorite isn't super great. Like, it's better than like Ohio State's, because Ohio State gets favored by so much. But this is the kind of game where I could see like it coming down to like a field goal, like the last team that has the ball, or either that or Michigan blows them out. So I haven't really made a decision yet. One thing I know is I'm not going to take Penn State. I don't. I agree with you. They haven't really played anybody in a while, and then coming into that, playing Michigan at Michigan, I don't really trust that. And then you have, James Franklin's history. His whole thing is he hasn't been able to get this team over the hump. We're really supposed to believe he's going into Michigan and beating Michigan. I just don't buy that. So I'm leaning the over right now, and I'll probably at some point talk myself into taking the Michigan spread, because that is probably the Michigan -7 and the over is probably the smart move, because if Michigan wins, I think they're going to put up points.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, 70% of the money is on Penn State +7 on the road. The over right now I see at 50.5. 70% of them, or 60% of the money is on the under. So in both cases, if you go Michigan and the over, you're fading the public in both spots on a pretty decent amount of bets. So I like that.
Makes me like it even more, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, you might talk me into the over. But for now, for me, Michigan -7. That's how I'm kicking off my Saturday. The noon slate. What about you? Got anything else? Or what else you got going in the noon slate here for Saturday?
Noon slate. One more, or I have more. I have a couple more, but one I'll give you right now. Ole Miss against Auburn under, because this one popped out to me. One, because I think Auburn stinks.
Yep.
And two, because I feel like they always set the Ole Miss numbers really high for some reason. And I guess because everybody loves Lane Kiffin and he's an offensive genius, and they just don't hit them like ever. Like, I know like Ole Miss was supposed to have this dynamic offense, and yeah, I guess it's pretty good, but they've been very overrated. Like they almost lost to Vanderbilt. Like, they didn't almost lose, but they were losing to Vanderbilt at halftime last week. I just think eventually, like, a disappointing loss is coming. I don't think they'll lose to Auburn because they're at home, but I wouldn't take them on the spread, like -14.5 as it is against Auburn. I just think they're a little overrated right now, and I like Lane Kiffin. I think he's a good coach, but yeah, I feel like the numbers always get set really high in these Ole Miss games, like they're gonna like just hang 40 or 50 on some team, and they never really do hang 40 or 50 on an SEC team. I just Auburn's not like, they're not like the Auburn they used to be, but they're still an SEC team. Like, they still have talent, and yeah, I like the under, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to your point on the over-unders, I think that's a great point, because start the season, they were in the 60s, mid-60s. I think week 4 against Tulsa was the highest so far in the season at 66.5. They were 1-5 to the under or 5-1 to the under. I'm sorry, they were all under until last week when Vanderbilt was able to score some points. So to your
Yeah.
point, if you're going to hit this over at 55.5, you're going to need Auburn to score some points. Vanderbilt's not a very good team. They were able to score a few points. Auburn's not a very good team. Are they able to score a few points? I don't know. I just don't trust both these teams. I think last week maybe it was more of a fluke for Vanderbilt compared to Auburn, where, I mean, we've talked about Auburn all season. This dead coach walking. Everyone knows it.
Can't believe he still has a job.
It's crazy. There's been a good amount of turnover in college football this season,
Yeah.
and he was one of the names that people had marked to start the season, and he's still riding it out. They're just showing enough to keep him around, I guess. But Mississippi so far this season is 3-3 against the spread. It's surprising. This is one of the lower spreads they've had all season. Last week they were 17-point favorites against Vanderbilt. This week 14.5 at home. I just like it. I think last week was a little fluky and they still covered against Vanderbilt. I don't think it's going to be fluky this week. I think Ole Miss gets it rocking and rolling. They put up 52 on Vanderbilt. I don't know if they're going to score 50 again this week, but is Auburn going to get you 14 points? I don't know. I think Ole Miss can score 30. So I like the minus 14.5 here. Public right now is on Auburn, which surprised the crap out of me. 75% of the money is on Auburn plus 14.5 points. And right now I don't have a money number, but 66% of the bets are to the over. You might be able to talk me into the under here on this one, because again, I just don't think Auburn's really going to be able to put up points. So, and the number might be a little high. I agree with you on that. So give me Ole Miss minus 14.5. We talked about Michigan, and we talked about not betting MAC games, but I gotta talk to you about Buffalo. Are they good? Is Buffalo good? I can't figure it out.
I have no idea. I think so.
It's not a noon game, it's a 1 o'clock game, but Buffalo at UMass stuck out to me a little bit.
I know UMass isn't good. That's what I do know.
Right. They've been kind of one of my bet against teams this year. 17 points is not a crazy spread for UMass. There's been a few in the 20s. Buffalo is on the road going to UMass, but for me, I think Buffalo might be pretty good. 17 points.
They're good against the spread. I know that.
Yeah, they're 4-1-1, so depending on the closing line there, to the spread. And I believe they covered the last 3 games. So they killed Bowling Green last week, 38-7. Bowling Green was my team, but I had to stay away just because I don't think Bowling Green has a defense. I know UMass doesn't have a defense.
Yeah, I think I'm done with Bowling Green for now, as much as I wanted to root for them. And Bowling Green in Northern Illinois, I'm off them for good.
High Bowling Green coming up in a second, but I'll talk to you about that then.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, I got the over in that one, though, because, again, I just don't think they have a defense.
Okay.
And I think they can score. So, but for this one, I like Buffalo minus 17. Again, it's kind of a fade UMass. It's also maybe Buffalo's actually good. To start the season, I didn't think they were that good. Maryland killed them week 1. They had that weird fluky loss to Holy Cross on a Hail Mary. But since then, they've kind of been rounding into shape a little bit. The last 3 games, dominant wins 50-31, 24-20 against Miami of Ohio. But I think going into the season, we all thought Miami of Ohio was better than Buffalo. And then killing Bowling Green 38-7. So, again, it's a little bit of a fade UMass. It's a little bit of a bet on Buffalo because I think they're better than we expected now that we're halfway through the season. Give me Buffalo minus 17 in the 1 o'clock slate. What else do you got in that early slate, Chip?
The early slate is... I was going to bet Ohio again, but I don't think that's till 3:30 actually, so I don't want to talk about that. Hold on.
I mean, we could talk Kansas, Oklahoma.
3:30. Yeah, that's 3:30. Sorry. I like I know this is kind of you know what? I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that later too. I'll talk about that next. I don't. Let's talk about Minnesota, Illinois,
Okay, that's a good
real
one because
quick.
I can't figure that
Yeah,
one out either.
yeah. I can figure out how Minnesota's ranked now, or Illinois is ranked now, and they're 6.5 point dogs at home against a Minnesota team that I think is overrated. Because everything in my bones is telling me to take Illinois, and I think I'm going to take Illinois. Maybe that's just because I like Bielema. I hate PJ Fleck. I'm being a little emotional about this. Can you help me out here? I don't get why Minnesota hasn't beaten anybody, have they? Like they lost to the best team they played. They lost to Purdue. I know that. They whooped Michigan State at Michigan State, but now we know that win isn't anything. They beat Colorado, New Mexico State, and Western Illinois were their other wins. So why are we supposed to be high on Minnesota? Why are they touchdown favorite or almost one touchdown favorites against Illinois into coming into Illinois? Jesus.
I don't know because I'm wondering. Trying to Google around a little bit. Like, is there someone injured on Illinois? To me, it made absolutely no sense.
Check it out.
Because not only that, Chip, I agree with you every step of the way on this. I don't think Minnesota's very good. I think Illinois is better than some people realize. And I mean, yeah, they had a good win against Wisconsin, and the coach got fired there, Chris or whatever. Iowa
Maybe the
last
fact that they only put up 9 points against Iowa is like scaring people off, like they can't score or something. But I disagree with that.
It could be, but I think it was maybe a little bit of a look ahead. I think it also was a big time letdown spot. Like you beat your rival Wisconsin, right? In Wisconsin, I believe the game was. On the road, absolutely demolished the guy, 34-10. Get the coach fired. They haven't fired anyone since 1995 at Wisconsin. You get the program to change over. You beat a rival. It's a huge letdown spot. You're playing one of the best defenses in the country, and you still win the game. Like, you're ranked now. I think Illinois has the juice, man. I think they got it going a little bit. I didn't see this coming from Illinois this year, but again, I like the coach, and I like the stats, man. 400 yards on offense. 8 points allowed on defense on average this season. Granted, there were some bad teams in there, but still, they're scoring. They're moving the ball. How is this 6.5 points?
Okay, so Illinois does have some injuries.
Okay, thank God. That had to be it.
Tommy DeVito, their starting quarterback. His status is still up in the air. This is as of a couple days ago. I assume that'll be a game time decision. This also says Isaiah Williams was hurt during the Iowa game. I forgot about that. He's their leading receiver. And defensive back Taz Nicholson and senior linebacker Isaiah Darkangelo. So they do have some injury problems. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I would guess because the line is 7 points. And, Chip, to put it over the top, I was agreeing with you every step of the way. And then I looked at the betting. 70% of the money's on Minnesota. I was like, this game makes absolutely no sense. It was giving me major, was it Washington versus Minnesota State or Michigan State vibes early in the season.
Which we were all over Washington.
Yeah, I think Tommy DeVito has to. I'm assuming Tommy DeVito's out for this game. That's why the spread's 7 points.
Their backup quarterback, Sikowski, is so goddamn bad.
Yeah.
Like, so bad.
So for me, this was a stay away because every bone in my body wanted to bet Illinois in this one. I'm happy we talked about it, and that's why we do the show. That's why we talk out all these games here on Winning P Weekly. You can find us on wherever podcasts are available, on the Knicks, Jets, etc. YouTube page. Like and subscribe. Tommy DeVito has to be out. I know it's still early in the week. Maybe he's a game time decision for Saturday, but
it's his ankle. That's a tough one. He's a running quarterback too. So
and he's been playing good. Was he a Syracuse guy?
Cuse, yeah. He was terrible at Cuse.
Yeah.
Like so bad. But yeah, they're fine at quarterback, obviously now. Schrader's played well.
Under 39.5, does that spark your interest at all?
Definitely. If they're missing if they're missing their quarterback and their number one receiver, it definitely sparks my interest.
Defense is pretty good. Both these defenses are pretty good.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
maybe I'll tweet that out on Saturday when we get a little bit closer because 39.5 is not the craziest number. It's a low
I think
number.
it's yeah, I think it's worth keeping an eye on because if we don't technically know about DeVito. If it comes out DeVito's playing, I think the line will move. But
Big time.
I think Illinois and if DeVito and Williams are playing, I think I'm going on Illinois for sure. But I'm not. I don't know if the line will move to them being favored. I don't know. That's a weird one. I'm going to keep my eye on Minnesota, Illinois for sure.
Okay, I want to talk to you real quick about Kansas versus Oklahoma. Kansas, the 19th team in the country. I made my line in the sand game against Oklahoma last week. I said, I'm taking Oklahoma. I'm taking the points. This is my line in the sand. If Oklahoma can't come out and cover this spread, there's no way I'm betting on them the rest of the season. Boy, did they not cover. They got absolutely rocked by Texas. Was it 49-0 in that game, I think.
They stink.
They stink. Their quarterback was out. I think Gabriel's back this week. The spread on this one right now is 9, and that's, I believe, because the Kansas quarterback is out.
Yeah. Yeah, he got hurt.
Is it Daniels is their quarterback, I believe,
Yeah,
so far?
Jalen Daniels.
Yeah, so, I mean, their backup, I think, came in and played okay last week. They ended up losing by a touchdown to TCU. I think TCU is pretty good. But with Daniels out, are you thinking about Kansas at all here? I'm thinking about making this my spite pick of the week just to spite Oklahoma because I hate them so much. But it worries me because I think Gabriel's back and I think he's pretty good.
I was thinking about staying away from this one because I don't know anything about Kansas's backup quarterback.
Jason
I don't
Bean
know.
is his name.
Yeah, I don't know too much about him. I know Oklahoma's got Gabriel coming back, but I think they still stink. Their defense still stinks. I think maybe the over if Oklahoma can put up points like that, but Kansas is starting a backup quarterback. So maybe the under might be the better play. I just don't trust Oklahoma at all to cover a 9-point spread. But also Kansas is playing a backup quarterback on the road. The Oklahoma crowds are going to be going crazy.
Major bounce back spot for them here for Oklahoma.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Maybe they blow them out. I don't know.
70% of the money's on Kansas right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I don't know. It's a backup quarterback on the road. I don't trust it.
He's played a few snaps here and there. I think last week he came in and he was pretty good.
Well, he was the
against
quarterback
TCU.
before Daniels took his job, right?
Right.
So he's played before.
And I think last week, I'm just trying to pull up the box score real quick for last week against TCU because I had TCU in that game, so I was watching that game.
Yeah, I think this one's probably a stay away for me.
16 to 24 for 262 and 4 touchdowns. It's pretty good. It's pretty good for a backup. Yeah, I'm probably gonna stay. Give me Kansas. We're gambling. We're here responsibly. Kansas as my spite pick of the week. I hate Oklahoma. Absolutely hate them so much.
I hate that Venables guy. I already hate him as much as I hate Dabo. He's so annoying.
Yeah. I mean,
he already annoys me.
And dude, USC is looking like a major come up. You had that from the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredible. That's a big game. We'll talk about that later. But anything else in this noon window that's sticking out to you for this week? Noon, 1 o'clock-ish. Iowa State at Texas. Is Texas back?
Are they back enough to cover that kind of spread?
It was a big spread. That's why I stayed away. I went into this week saying, you know what, I'm taking Texas. I don't like Iowa State. I think that they're, for some reason, some people like them, and I just don't see it with them. 77% of the money's on Iowa State. That made me want to take Texas so bad. 16 points is a lot of points.
Is he checked out, Campbell, because he's going to Nebraska? I don't know. They stink. They stink. But I don't know. Maybe Ewers comes in and lights them up again at home. That's a low total. They really don't think Iowa State's going to score.
Yeah, 48.5. But there's a huge bet. Someone bet big on the over 48.5 because only 13% of the bets are on it. But I see 65% of the money is on the over. So
the over.
Someone out there thinks it's going to hit. hey, people gamble, people win, people lose. You know, doesn't mean they're right, but someone's betting a
Someone
lot of
out
money.
there, someone out there thinks Quinn Ewers is going to throw 7 touchdowns.
I guess
Is what
so.
it looks like.
I guess so. One of the boosters is trying to make his money up for the season so he could pay some
Yeah,
people, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah, if I was going to go anyway in this game, I would go Texas, but I'm staying away.
Yeah,
Game I
think so
wanted to
too.
talk about, Chip, before we move on to the afternoon games, because there's some great ones in the afternoon. I mean, holy cow. I think 3 ranked matchups. We talked about staying away from the MAC. I can't do it. I took Buffalo. Dude, Bowling Green is allowing 41 points a game. 41. And they haven't played great teams, Chip. They haven't played these awesome teams. They played Marshall. They played Mississippi State, so that's a good team. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, no. That was Ohio. Sorry.
Yeah, but I think they played Akron, gave up 28. They played Buffalo, gave up 38. They're not, but both teams are able to score here. I think, Bowling Green's averaging 26. Miami of Ohio's averaging 21. I like the over in this one. I think it's 44.5, 45 right now. It's moved up a little bit. I'll take it at 45. 60% of the money's on the under. Like I said, Bowling Green is allowing 40 points a game, and the total is 46. I think Miami of Ohio is as good as offense as some of the teams I listed. I think they're better than Akron. I think they're just as good as Buffalo. Give me the over in that one, over 46.
Yeah, I don't trust either one of those teams to cover, but I trust both of those teams to be not good.
Yeah.
So especially Bowling Green on defense.
When
No,
MAC teams are bad, I don't feel like it's ever like 9-6, like we just talked about with Illinois and Iowa.
Never.
It's like 52-43, like some crazy scores. You're like, how do they get to that combination? Like the MAC teams, when they're bad, I feel like they just score. I never feel like it's low scoring.
It's just so unpredictable right now.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like I kind of thought Iowa was underrated or Ohio was underrated, and they proved me right last week. But it's weird. Like Western Michigan was favored last week at home against Eastern Michigan, and Eastern Michigan hung like 28 points on them in the first quarter.
It's crazy.
Northern Illinois won the MAC last year, and they're just flat out not that good this year. I just don't think they're going to win it. And Ohio started out pretty bad, and now they're 3-3. They're playing better. I just don't know who's that good in the MAC. With that said, now that you pitched that over, I think I'm probably going to take it. The over in a game with 2 bad teams. Plus, the overs hit the majority of the time in Bowling Green games. And I was looking at that game already, and I was looking at the Chips going to Akron, Central Michigan going to Akron.
Okay.
And I know it's Akron. And I know Central Michigan won me a game against Oklahoma State earlier. I think it was might have been week 1. I think they hit the over with Oklahoma State. They put up points against them.
Yes, they did.
And
the over was 50. By the way, the over was 58 in that game. Final score is 58-44. So yeah, that was an easy cover on the over.
That was an easy one.
Yep.
And I know it's Akron, like I said,
but
I'm taking Akron in that game because I'm looking at it and I'm like, why is that one only 13.5? And my gut feeling on this is, who the hell knows with the MAC this year? Maybe Akron comes out and wins this game from what we've seen so far. And I sprinkle some on the money line. That's how weird this season has been. Yeah. And I'll definitely lose. But
you never know with these MAC teams.
You never know with these MAC teams. I just think maybe Akron is the one that finally does it. Like Eastern Michigan is playing Northern Illinois this week. I looked at that game and I'm like, fuck both these teams. Like I hate them both. The total is 66.5 in that game for a reason. They both, like you said, both stink and they're both going to score a bunch of points and they'll probably both add up to 66.
Yeah.
Like
Eastern Michigan, I can't get a handle on. I'm wrong every time I pick them. I'm wrong, so I think I'm staying away
I'm staying away from that one. Staying away, and I'm
So you
Yeah,
got
I'm
Akron
staying
spread.
away.
What's the spread on that game?
13.5 on FanDuel right now.
I like that. I like that. Anything else in that noon slate, Chip? Or you want to move on to these 3 o'clock games? Because, like I said, there's a few good ones that nationally people are going to talk about, and there's a couple that we have to talk about on this podcast because some of our favorite teams are going up against each other.
Haven't decided yet, but I'm leaning to. We talk about leaning towards games, and I'm
Yep.
leaning towards this one. And this is not any analysis at all. And I know Miami hasn't played well recently, but I think Virginia Tech just flat out stinks. And I know Miami, like I said, has not played well recently or much at all this season, but they're only favored by 7, and it's at Virginia Tech. But man, I just don't think Virginia Tech is that good. And they got whooped pretty good last week. I just don't think they're that good. So
Yeah, and Miami needs to win more than ever.
oh yeah, Miami's desperate for a win, and the urgency at Virginia Tech is not there like it is for Miami. Like Virginia Tech has a first year head coach too, but it's just not there. And man, Virginia Tech, what a fall from grace. Like remember when we were kids and Virginia Tech was like a premier program in the country?
Oh yeah,
It's
would
just
they
not
do
that.
Enter Sandman there? Right, that's their
Yeah, they
hype up
still
stuff.
do that. That's
Whoo!
still one of the coolest things in the country. Like
Yeah,
one of the coolest things in college football.
and that
But
color
yeah,
scheme, the maroon and orange or whatever they got going on, I love those
yeah.
jerseys.
I don't know. Maybe this is a wake up game for Miami. Like Pitt hung 45 on them last week.
Crazy.
And I know that was at Pitt and this is at Vatek and they'll be ready to go, but I don't know. West Virginia whooped them 33-10 at home. I just think I like Miami to cover here.
I like it too. 70% of the money's on Virginia Tech, so it makes me really like Miami trying to fade the public here.
I don't get that. Like I feel like that's still people betting like it's your older brother's Virginia Tech team. They're just not that team
Or it's
anymore,
just a
dude.
strict fade Miami at this point. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Some of these handles, John and I did the NFL episodes. You guys can check that out earlier this week. Some of these spreads and some of the amounts that people bet, like the percentage of monies, I just don't understand sometimes. Like I think 70% of the money was on Chicago tonight for the NFL game. How are the Chicago Bears getting 70% of the money in any game? It's crazy.
Yeah, against a high school team. How are they doing that?
Yeah, it's crazy. So sometimes I don't understand it. I think that maybe it's just a fade Michigan or a Miami bet. That's why the money's so high on Virginia Tech. But I'm with you. If I were gonna go anyway, I would go Miami.
Yeah. If I was betting anything, I would bet Wentz to have a shitty game. Or what his coach said about him. I think he's terrible.
That was so weird. That was so
Yeah.
weird.
Mm,
All right, 3 o'clock games. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of good ones.
yep.
Let's start off with the best bet of mine. And I'm back. And I'm riding. I'm riding with the Georgia Bulldogs. They had a couple fluky games here and there against some inferior opponents. They're against another inferior opponent in Vanderbilt. But they're at home. I think they righted the ship last week. I think the messaging from the coach and the staff got through that what they're doing is not acceptable, not covering against Missouri and these other Kent State weird games that they were playing. The spread is high, 38.5. 70% of the money is on Vanderbilt, and I absolutely love that. I think Georgia at home absolutely whomps Vanderbilt. Maybe gives up a field goal and scores 50 on them. I think Georgia's back. I think Georgia's rolling. I think they get it right this week. That is a best bet for me. And
Best
3
bet
o'clock.
30. Best bet 38.5.
Yep.
Man. Statement game from Georgia is what you're saying.
Yes, it has to be. I like that statement, James. Statement game by me. It takes a lot of faith to put a best bet tag on a 3.5 point spread. I said Vanderbilt in the beginning of the season stinks. They've obviously been better than expected. I think Georgia proves me right here, holds true, shows just how bad Vanderbilt is.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I would, you got a lot of balls putting a 38.5 point spread as one of your best bets, man. I wouldn't do that. Yeah. Georgia just looked inconsistent to me. Yeah, maybe it's just, Bama does the same thing that Georgia's doing now, is what Bama's doing and what they
Yeah.
did last year, too. They just haven't looked like their dominant selves. Okay, they haven't been steamrolling everybody. So what? They still may win the national championship. That
Yeah.
just, yeah, that just doesn't mean they're going to steamroll everybody. So what? But yeah, I don't know. Vanderbilt looked okay in the first half against Ole Miss. I don't know. 38.5 point spreads. That's too much for me, especially when I got burned by Bama last week on A&M. I don't know. I'm staying away. I know A&M is much better than Vandy, obviously, but I feel like we've seen better things from Vandy this year.
Yeah, they definitely have been better than what I thought going into the season for sure.
Yeah.
What do you got for a 3 o'clock or 3:30 game?
First one I got, and you know what? I'm actually going to put this one down as a best bet now. I'm going to switch
Okay.
it. I got Oak State
Yes.
plus 3.5 on the road against TCU. Mike Gundy covers,
Yes, he does, Chip.
especially he covers and he covers against good teams. And maybe I'm old school, maybe I'm an idiot for this, but I like the teams that have done it before. I like the coaches that have done it before. I look at the trends, and Sonny Dykes is a good coach. Sonny Dykes is at home, but Mike Gundy has done being good and being in the top 10 and the top 15 for longer than Sonny Dykes has. He's used to this. I know it's at TCU. I think TCU will play well. I think TCU is good, but I think Oklahoma State will cover. And I like the plus 3.5. And I also like the fact that it's plus 100 on DraftKings, the plus 3.5. I'm like, man, I think Oak State could win outright. So, yeah, I like Oak State in that one.
I love it. I do too. I've talked about Mike Gundy, I think, every week, so I don't know if I need to keep getting into it, but dude, I'm riding with Oklahoma State until I see something otherwise. I think to your point, they can hang with anyone really. Their offense is explosive. I think their defense is pretty good when it needs to be. Um, I like TCU so far this season. I had them last week. I watched that game. They're an exciting team for sure. I think it's gonna be a close one. The over 68.5 and 78% of the money's on that over. So people think there's gonna be points, points, points. I think it's going to 70. So if that's the case, I always like to say, if I'm betting the over here, give me the points +4. Oklahoma State on the road. I think they get it done. I think they could win outright for sure. I think it's plus 150 right now. But to your point, give me the 3.5 points. Give me the plus 100, and let's keep it rocking.
Yeah, I like Oak State and the over because if Oak State covers, they're going to score a lot of points. So
Yeah,
you might as well throw the over in there.
you might as well double dip on it. I love that. It's the best bet for you.
Yeah.
What about Alabama, Tennessee? You got anything in that game? I can't figure it out, so I ended up staying away. I've been betting
Really, you stayed
Alabama.
away from Bama. I don't, Bama hasn't been covering, but they've had bigger spreads than 7.
Yeah,
And this feels like a spot where, look, I think I've been high on Tennessee all year, but it feels like a spot where Tennessee could get a little exposed and get smoked. And they're playing at home, and this is the biggest game for Tennessee's program in a long time.
without a
This is
doubt.
a huge game. They got one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Hendon Hooker. If they win this game, he is this behind CJ Stroud, the favorite, the second favorite for the Heisman. Don't you think?
I agree, 100%, man. He's
Yeah.
looked good. He's big. He's got the arm. This Tennessee
Yeah.
offense moves, man. That pace of play, they keep it going. I think Bama hasn't been that impressive this year. Again, Bryce Young. I don't know if we know if he's playing at this point this
There's
week.
also that factors in. Yeah.
Dude, how are you down Bryce Young, a Heisman Trophy winner, on the road against Tennessee, maybe the hottest team in college football, a 3 versus 6 matchup?
That says a lot, doesn't it? That they're still favored.
They're still favored by a touchdown. That says a
There's
lot.
and I'm guilty of it too. I just did it against A&M where people are like, they look at the word Alabama and they say, oh, Alabama, and just bet it.
Yeah.
Because I did it against Texas A&M. And I didn't even I barely considered the 24.5 last week. I was just like, it's A&M. Saban's going to stomp dust into Jimbo Fisher after what happened. Well, he couldn't do it because he didn't have Bryce Young.
Yep. And
Well,
even when they had Bryce Young, we talked about it last week, they don't have the receivers. They don't have the weapons that they've had in past years.
yeah. And they still don't have those receivers this week. and they may not have Bryce Young again. I know this is a prime spot for Tennessee to shit the bed. It really, really is.
Yep.
But this offense has looked spectacular all year. I got to take them. I got to take Tennessee +7. I just do. And I've been blindly taking Bama, ignoring why I shouldn't. I'm going Tennessee +7.
Yeah, everything in my heart says to take Alabama in this one, but I just can't do it just because they didn't look good last week. I thought they were going to look a lot better against Texas A&M. I think Tennessee's the real deal. To your point, I think this is where Tennessee usually trips up, and it's no slouch to trip up against Alabama and Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Like that's, I really don't think that's too big of a knock on Tennessee. So, but again, 7 points. I don't know about the cover in this one. It's a lot of points for a road team with their backup quarterback. It's crazy. So I agree with you. If I were going to bet anything, I'd probably just take the 7 points in Tennessee and hold your, as we talk about on the NFL podcast, just hold your nose and take the pick and hold your nose with Tennessee. But
and pray that Tennessee doesn't fumble the opening kickoff.
Yeah. Yeah, 90% of the money's on Tennessee money line +240. I think that's pretty interesting. That's a lot of money on one side.
May have to do that too, by the way.
Another game that I got, I don't have any of the other big-time matchups. Oh, yes, I do. What am I saying? I can't believe I disrespected Syracuse like that. Syracuse, the 18th ranked team in the country, hosting NC State. We've talked about NC State a lot this year. We've talked about Syracuse a lot this year. NC State without their starting quarterback. We've also talked about NC State on the road not being the same team that they are at home. Syracuse -3.5 at home. I love Cuse. Give me the orange. Give me the Carrier Dome. Let's get it
Cuse
rocking.
at the Dome. Cuse at the Dome. I'm taking Cuse -3.5. Cuse at the Dome. Absolutely. -3.5. Devin Leary's not playing. I would have taken Cuse even if Leary was playing. But without Leary, I for sure am taking Cuse -3.5. The total is super low, 42. I think it will probably, I would take the under if I was betting the points. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. NC State's defense is still really good. Cuse will probably struggle to score, but Cuse's defense is good too. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game. Unfortunately, it's on at the same time as Tennessee Bama because I know my family's going to want to watch Cuse NC State, so I got to go watch in a different room to watch Tennessee Bama.
Yep.
But yeah, I love Cuse -3.5. I'm going to keep betting Cuse for sure.
I love it. You got anything else in this 3:30 slate, 3 o'clock slate?
We going any more MAC games here? There's a lot of MAC games here.
I'm staying away, but there are some great matchups. We talked about Northern Illinois and Eastern Michigan, Kent State, Toledo, Ohio, Western Michigan. Some great MAC games, but I'm staying away because I'm going with one of my teams that I still have faith in Maryland. I tried to apologize to Maryland. I think they let me down a little last week with Purdue. I thought they were going to win that game. The over hit, but it barely hit. 60 points, and the over was 59. I think Indiana can score, man. I think that first half, I was a little surprised against Michigan. They got absolutely blanked in the second half. But that's just because I think Michigan is that much better. Maryland is not that much better. They're on the road in Indiana. I think Indiana has a big bounce back spot here. I like the over 61. I think both these teams can score. I think Maryland can get it done on the road. They showed it at the road against Michigan. Both these teams have now played Michigan, and Maryland fared a lot better than Indiana did.
I kind of want to take Indiana at home.
Yeah.
+11.5. But that feels like betting with my heart because I've said all year I have so little faith in Maryland. And then when I did bet against them, it was Michigan and they burned me.
Yeah.
So I kind of don't want to bet against Maryland. So I think you talked me into the over here. Maryland, Indiana.
Yeah, Maryland's putting up 460 yards a game right now. I mean, it's crazy, and Indiana's allowing 430 yards.
I just don't trust Maryland to cover that number. I just think
I agree. That's
11
why I
and a
went with the
half.
over.
Yeah, I like the over there. I'll take that. And now that I think about it long enough, I have talked myself into Ohio playing Western Michigan. I will keep backing Ohio. That's a pick 'em right now. I'm going to take Ohio in that one. We got Northern Illinois, Eastern Michigan. Staying away from that. Screw that. And then there's Kent State, Toledo. I'm sure I'll talk myself into something on that at that point because I haven't bet either one of those teams.
Yep.
I think Kent State is better than their record. They did their thing where they played a bunch of great teams to get the money from that. But Toledo so far has been the best team in the MAC, and it's at Toledo, so you may have to lean Toledo there. But if we like to give advice every once in a while on this show too. If I
Yeah.
was to give advice, I would say, as you kind of alluded to earlier, don't bet Eastern Michigan.
Yeah.
Don't bet them because they're at home. By the way, they're at home again this week where they got whooped by Western Michigan last week. I mean, I wish they were playing a team other than Northern Illinois, or I would bet that team.
Yep.
But you can't trust Northern Illinois either. So I'm staying away from that one. It sucks.
It's crazy. It's crazy. To round out this afternoon slate, I got a 4 o'clock game here. And this is my don't think, just throw. One team's good, one team's bad. I'm going Tulane over South Florida. I think
Ooh.
John talked about Tulane and ECU last week. He liked ECU. I said, I don't know. Tulane's been pretty good. 4-1 against the spread. The Green Wave. I love the jerseys. I like the team. They got it done. They got it done last week. 24-9 against ECU. I think ECU is much better than South Florida. South Florida is not good this season. I think they're 1-4 or 1-5 right now. 1-5, 0-2 in the conference. Tulane's 5-1, 2-0 in the conference. Tulane's defense has been good, just letting up 13 points a game. Their offense has been awesome, averaging 400 yards a game. I think they can get it done. Yes, they're on the road, and it's a 13-point spread. That worries me, or 12-point spread. That worries me a little bit. 60% of the money's on South Florida. So I'm fading the public here. That gives me a little bit of reprieve. I'm going Tulane here to end out this kind of afternoon slate at -12. You got
Don't know
anything on?
much. Don't know much about South Florida, to be
Yeah.
honest. But I do like Tulane all year long. I like their coach. I think he's got a good reputation, so I wouldn't bet against them. But I got to look more at that game. I can't believe I forgot. This is one of my best bets. Just
Oh,
fuck Sparty. Just fuck Sparty all year long. Fuck Sparty.
I like
I
that.
got, and we talked about Wisconsin earlier. Wisconsin -7.5 at Michigan State. I love Wisconsin. It's one of my best bets. Love them. Love Wisconsin. Michigan State is in a they're in a downward spiral, and I love it after we took them in the under and we said they were overrated, and they're a disaster. So Wisconsin -7.5. It's at Michigan State. Who cares? I love Wisconsin, even though I'm obviously still rooting for Nebraska to win the Big Ten West, which shockingly, there's still hope out there.
There is.
It's astounding.
There
But
is.
yeah, I'm always rooting against Michigan State because there's something about that team. It's just like, God, they're annoying.
Yeah, they were fraudulent. You said it in
Yeah,
the preview that they're frauds, and boy, have you been proven right week in and
that,
week out.
they beat a third string quarterback in the Peach Bowl.
It's crazy.
And we were supposed to anoint them as a legacy program. Like, get over it. Come on. Here's a wake up call. Washington knocked you out.
I love it.
And they're not even that good.
I know, and I love the Wisconsin pick. Jim Leonard got the boys going last week against.
Oh, yeah. Love Jim Leonard, by the way. He
Yeah.
could get that job.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's one of the reasons why they got rid of Chris, because I think they felt confident with him, and they're giving
Also,
him,
yeah.
7 games or so to kind of prove himself.
Also, I don't know if you listen to Barstool's college football podcast, Unnecessary Roughness, but they said one of the reasons they let Chris go was that apparently he just like wasn't recruiting like at all. Like no new high school players were coming in. Like
I
they
didn't
did
know
no
that.
recruiting. Yeah, he wasn't talking to any high school players. Like kids, like some really good high school players showed up to Wisconsin, wanted to go there, and none of the assistants on the staff like even talked to the kid, and he just like went to Iowa or Penn State or something. It was
Jeez.
like, so yeah, he had to go, obviously.
Yeah, at that point, you got to move on.
Yeah,
Speaking of moving
recruiting's
on,
massive.
let's get to the 7 o'clock slate. 'Cause I think there's some interesting games here, and I want to start with Clemson, the fourth team in the country, at Florida State at 7:30. And this is, if we did one of my missing picks, this is my one of my missing pick of the week. It's 3.5. I think Clemson's looked really good. I think Florida State's been up and down a little bit. Maybe Clemson's been a little up and down, and I'm just not seeing it, so I'm kind of blinded by the Clemson orange, I guess. I mean, they
Has
rolled
Clemson
BC.
been really good?
They rolled BC. I think
BC sucks.
they handled NC State.
They didn't play great against NC State. NC State played well.
Yeah, NC State did play well, but again, they won by 10. Wake Forest, they covered that.
Wake Forest played really well in that game.
Yeah, and I just don't think. I think those three teams. No, two of those teams, Wake and NC State, not BC, obviously, are better than Florida State.
Yeah,
I get it that it's on the road. I get Florida State's home. But I just think the Clemson offense has got it going a little bit. DJ's looking pretty good. I thought after that week 1 performance where it was not looking good that there was a shot at possible change at the quarterback position. But I think he's got it rocking and rolling, man. I think they can score. I think the defense is okay. It hasn't been that stud Clemson defense that we're kind of used to seeing, but I think they've had some injuries at key spots. Florida State looked pretty good last week on the road at NC State, lost by 2. It looked pretty good against Wake, 31-21. So both these teams have played Wake. One team's beat Wake, one team hasn't. I think Wake's pretty good. Just give me Clemson. Minus, was it 3.5, did I say, on the road?
Yeah.
Yeah, give me Clemson minus 3.5 to start off this evening window.
Yeah, I'm taking Clemson too there. There's something about Florida State. Like they just don't do it for me. I don't get it. Like I don't get why it's 3.5. I don't trust them. They're just not there yet. Maybe it's because my childhood, I have like all these memories of Florida State just being dominant.
Yeah.
And they're nowhere close to that. And even later, like, and like with Jimbo too, like they're so nowhere close to that. And it looked like maybe they were going to be better this year with Norvell. And I can't get a read on them. I just still, even though that LSU win, I still don't think they're that good. And also LSU just clearly isn't that good. Yeah, I don't like Florida State. I agree with you. I don't get why it's 3.5, even though I think Clemson hasn't played that well. The teams that they haven't played that well against are, I think, better than Florida State. And I hate when we're giving Florida State credit for playing well against NC State. They still lost the game, and they should have won because they were playing against a backup quarterback, which says a lot about Florida State. They should have won, and they didn't. That's kind of a theme of that Mike Norvell era. They had a chance to win. That would have been a signature win for the program. Signature win on the road, NC State. That's a tough place to play, and they couldn't get it done. They couldn't get it done. So what makes you think they're going to be able to beat Clemson? Like, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I guess it's 3.5, but I just don't think, I don't trust this Florida State team. There's nothing about them that makes me like, oh yeah, they'll stick with Clemson. Really? I don't, like you said, this is a weird one. I love Clemson here, minus 3.5.
Yeah, I do. I mean, we're talking Florida State. Have to shout out my boy from UAlbany, Jared Verse on the team there.
Yeah.
Tackle for loss last week, couple tackles. He's flashing. He's doing his thing. I like that. I like that he's moved up to Florida State, and hopefully he keeps moving up because Florida State program, man, it's weird. It's one of those weird things where every year I feel like they haven't been competitive over the last, 5 years. This year kind of felt a little different at the beginning of the year. Even after the loss last week, they're sitting at 4-2. You know, they've had 2 tough losses, but that would have been a statement win to your point. That would have been a big time win for the program.
It would have been their biggest win in a while.
Yeah. What do you got in this late slate? Because there's some good games I want to talk about here.
Yeah, there's a few that I got here. This is actually better. The slate's actually better than I thought it was initially.
Yeah.
I was looking at Nebraska, Purdue, obviously, initially, but I think I might stay away from that one because if I was going to bet a team, it'd be Nebraska, and I'm not sure I trust them to bet that. They're just,
Oh,
it's plus 13.5. And eventually I'll probably end up betting it just because, I need them to win. And I'm going to be checking out the score. But right, I'm more looking at Stanford, Notre Dame, Kentucky, Mississippi State, and SC Utah right now.
okay.
So SC Utah, I think, is 8 o'clock. That's probably the premier night game.
Yeah.
And obviously, Utah's had a disappointing season so
Yep.
far, but they're favored by 3.5. It's at Utah. And which is, that's one of those weird things because SC, I believe, is ranked sixth in the country right now
Yes.
and or seventh. It depends on the poll, I guess. And Utah, like I said, has had a pretty disappointing season by the way they were supposed to be. They just got smoked by UCLA, and UCLA is obviously better than we thought they were. But yeah, Utah being favored, I guess, says a lot about what people think about SC, and I think SC's good. So I take SC money line here. I think they're going to. I have them obviously as a long shot to win the national championship. I guess they could lose this game and still make the playoff probably, but I'm going to take them money line here. I think they've stumbled a little bit recently. They haven't played their best recently, but I think that's probably worn them up for this one. I like them money line here, plus 150 it is on DraftKings. And I also like the under in Mississippi State, Kentucky. I think that game's going to be ugly. I think that has, Mike Leach's teams don't come out and sling it and score a bunch of points in every game. And I think this is going to be one of those games. Kentucky has a great defense. I know they haven't played well recently, but I don't like the spread. I don't, it's -4 Mississippi State. I don't know if I like that, but I do like the total. I like the under. And how about Notre Dame winning 3 in a row after we said they were dead?
We rode them off. We rode them
Yeah,
off. And they
rode
ain't
them
right
off
back,
completely.
according to Geno Smith. Shout out Geno Smith.
Yeah, Notre Dame 3 wins in a row. Good for them, man. So -17 against Stanford at home. And I know it's a big number, and I know we all said Notre Dame was dead a month ago, whatever it was. I'm taking ND -17 because
Wow.
I'm looking at it like, oh, that feels like a big number. It's Stanford. They're not terrible, but why is it such a big number then? Is it because all these crazy ND fans are hammering ND? I don't know. Maybe it's just because ND is a lot better than we thought they were initially, and they're going to steamroll Stanford. So I'm going with the ND -17.
I like it. I thought I was gonna be cute and take Stanford here because I looked at the game. I was like, well, Stanford, they're 1-4, but their 4 losses are USC, Washington, Oregon, and Oregon State. Like those are some tough games, and they've been competitive in all of them.
Stanford stinks though. Their coach is about to get fired too.
Yeah.
Like, they stink. They stunk for a few years now.
But they were able to score 20-something points in every single one of those games. So if you're scoring 20-something points, say 24, you're getting 17. Now all of a sudden you're like, okay, sitting at 41 points? Notre Dame has to beat me by? I don't see 41 points in Notre Dame's pocket. But then again,
Maybe against Stanford.
maybe against Stanford.
They
That's
scored
true.
45 against UNC,
Yeah.
and they have one of the worst defenses in the country. So I don't know what kind of defense Stanford has
It's not
compared to
good.
UNC, but
Not
it
good,
ain't
but then
good.
again, they've played really good teams, and maybe Notre Dame is one of those good teams. So I stayed away from that one for me. I was leaning Stanford, but then again, I said I thought I was going to kind of be sharp here. 90% of the money's on Stanford. That
Get
freaks
the
me
fuck out of here.
That
Really?
freaks me out with how many people bet Notre Dame and how public Notre Dame is. I know it's still early in the week. That freaked me out, so I stayed away from that one. Nebraska-Purdue, we talked about that. 80% of the money is on Nebraska. I don't think 80% of the money should ever be on Nebraska. I like Purdue at home -13.5. I think that they can score. I think we've said that at the beginning of the year. I think we've said it in the middle of the year. We definitely said it last week, and they scored with Maryland. I like Purdue in that one to score by 2 touchdowns. I think Nebraska's been riding a little bit of a high. I think it comes down a little bit. And my third and final best bet of the week, you talked about it. You're making me think about flipping it, but I have to stick with my gut. Mississippi State -4. I don't think
Wow.
Kentucky's that
Okay.
good. Is Will Levis hurt?
He sucks.
Well, again, I guess if he sucks,
Yeah.
doesn't matter if he's hurt
Who
or not.
cares? He's so overrated. He's such horse shit.
But
I'm so
dude,
sick of these NFL draft people acting like he's gonna be amazing and be like better than all these other good quarterbacks. Like, oh God, fuck off with the Will Levis stuff.
I know
God.
I have to send you something. You see, was it Brady Quinn said that
Oh fuck
Bryce
him.
Young's the best prospect in 20 years, best
Oh, I
quarterback
thought you were
star.
gonna say we should. I thought you were gonna say he talked about how the Jets should tank so they can get Will Levis instead of Zach Wilson.
Yeah,
Really? Have you watched Will Levis play football, Brady?
it's crazy. I mean, he said that we were going to be 0-9. We're about to go 4-2 when we beat the Packers this week, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Mississippi State, though, back to that -4, has covered 3 in a row, has gone over 3 in a row the last 3 games. Granted, it's Arkansas and Texas A&M and Bowling Green. We talked about Bowling Green not being that good, but Texas A&M is pretty good. Arkansas, depends who you ask if they're good or not.
Yes,
Kentucky,
me. I don't think they are.
yeah, Kentucky, I think is probably the best of those games, but they've been covering by ease. They've been covering by ease. So give me 4 points here with Mississippi State. My third and final best bet of the day for Mississippi State, the 16th ranked team in the country. And I got one 10 o'clock game. You got anything else in the 7 o'clock slate, or did we cover all of it?
Damn, you just reminded me of that Purdue offensive showcase they put on against Cuse, who has a pretty good defense. And I'm thinking about that now, and a Nebraska team that has a pretty lousy defense.
Purdue can score, man.
Dude scores a lot of
80%
points.
of the money's on Nebraska. It's like I was saying about the Chicago game tonight. Why are the Chicago Bears getting 70% of the money? That's crazy. Why is Nebraska getting 80% of the money? They've won the last 2 weeks, so I get that. But they haven't played a team like Purdue in the last 2 weeks.
I may have to, yeah, I may have to hit, maybe I hedge and go with Purdue -13.5 just because I need both. Yeah,
Yeah.
because Nebraska winning would help me too, but I obviously can't take that money line. So yeah, Purdue -13.5 is the smart one. So I would take that.
What about 10 o'clock? You got anything there? Because it's not a best bet, but it's, if you're having a good day, hammer this bet at 10 o'clock bet of the week.
I don't think I have. Yeah, I don't have it. If you're looking at the Air Force game for that, then I am way off from you because I don't trust them.
I can't trust the Air Force. I said last week on the show, UNLV, I'm going to keep my eye on them. I think they were 4-1 against the spread. They got absolutely smoked last week against a not good team. I think it was Troy, maybe. They got absolutely killed. So, oh no, I'm sorry. They got absolutely smoked against San Jose State last week. I kept my eye on it. I watched the game. I kind of like San Jose State. San Jose State's playing Fresno State, who has yet to cover spread this season. Give me San Jose State. Like I said, UNLV I thought was pretty good going into that game. Turned out to be wrong. Or maybe San Jose State's just really, really good. Defense is nice, averaging 14 points a game, letting up 14 points a game. Their offense is humming 30 points a game. Like I said, they put 40 up on UNLV. Neither team has played anybody. I guess Fresno State has technically played USC, but they got smoked 45-17. Other than that, no one's played anyone, and San Jose's 4-1, 2-0 in the conference. I like San Jose State here. What's the spread on it? I forgot already because I'm so excited. 8.5. Got to give me a touchdown and a field goal.
Yeah, Fresno got whooped last week by Boise State, and I know Boise was riding like a high. Their offensive coordinator quit, their quarterback transferred, so it was a weird game for Boise. But man, Boise's been lousy all year, and you give up a 40 spot to them when they're coming in with a new coordinator and new quarterback. That's pretty embarrassing.
Like I said, they haven't
I
covered
just
all
don't.
season.
By the way, they also lost to UConn, Fresno,
Yeah.
so
And
I think they're pretty bad.
I think they were big time favorites in that game too, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chip, if that wraps it up for you, I got John's picks. He texted them over, so I'll run through those.
I forgot about. Well, I'm adding this one at the last minute. Sorry,
I like it.
I'm adding Washington State +3.5 because I have no idea why they're dogs. I don't think Oregon State is good, and Cam Ward's my guy. I got the over on Washington State, so I'm doubling down there.
What time is that game? Do you know? Because that was a game that
It's
stood out to me, and I was
9
gonna
o'clock. 9
9 o'clock.
o'clock.
I will be adding that to my card because I
Yes.
was too scared to take it, and I don't
Of
know why.
course. Of course, Pac-12 network, so no one in the world can watch it.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, but I mean Washington. I think maybe the money is what scared me away. Not 60% of the money. It's not that crazy. Plus 3.5 on the road. I think Washington State's better. I really do.
I mean, they lost to USC last week. They played them pretty tough, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're good. They're a bowl team. I'm interested to see them in a bowl.
All right, so we got John's picks in. Some of them line up, some of them don't. So it's going to be an interesting week next week. Hopefully all three of us are together and we can talk about it. Michigan under 50.5. Michigan first half under 25. So he thinks that's going to be low scoring from the jump.
Low scoring.
I
Wow.
don't hate that. Michigan is not. I don't think they've started hot really in most of their games this season, unless they're
So
playing
the
really
opposite
bad
of
teams.
me, as usual. John and me on the opposite end of things.
Yep. Central Michigan minus 13.5. Minnesota minus 6.5. He loves the Gophers. We do not.
Wow.
Georgia first half minus 23.5. NC State plus 3.5 on the road in Syracuse. That is a disgusting pick, John.
Oh my God.
That is a disgusting pick. No
He did that on
quarterback
purpose.
on the road. He's just trying to get us riled up. I won't give him the satisfaction. Southern Miss minus 4.5. I think I had them last week. I can't take them again. Utah minus 3.5 at home. We talked about that game at night. It's foggy. It's different. You and I again, Chip, on USC. Best bet. He only gave us one. He also was asking, what is he missing? What is he missing? And I agree, Chip. We talked about it. Clemson minus 3.5. It is a weird line. It might be a rat line. I think Clemson's better. I think they've played better teams. I think they're better minus 3.5 on the road. And then he said if Clemson's not a rat line, he thinks that Duke line is a rat line. So he's going UNC minus 7.
I don't think Duke sucks.
I know.
That's
why I think he thinks it's a rat line because they're plus 7 at home against UNC. I just think, I forget what the stat is, but I think the UNC coach, I'm blanking on his name, Mac Brown. He's 11-1 against Duke since he's been there or something like that.
Is he really? Is it that?
Has he played that many games against Duke? Has he been there that long?
I don't think he can't have been at Carolina for 12 years. Is it really that many years?
And they don't play twice a year. So maybe that stat was off, but it wasn't 11, maybe it was 8-1 or something like that. But it was a lot to a little. I think he's had their number.
I'm sure he's for a majority of the time. Yeah, I'm sure he's beaten them a lot.
Yeah, I think UNC's defense is rounding into form a little bit. I think that Duke is better than what people expected, though. So, minus 7. I don't think that's the craziest bet. Chip, anything else for this week? Again, you talked about adding to your card. Chip Murphy 7 on Twitter. You can find him over there. He'll be tweeting out his picks. He'll be adding to his card. We're always Winning Pete Weekly on here. We'll give out our picks. We'll talk. We'll chop it up. We'll talk all week long about gambling because there's gambling every night. It's football. It's baseball. It's basketball futures. It's everything. We got it rocking and rolling right now.
Yeah, I'm always adding. So I'm always adding throughout the day. Unfortunately, that's what I do. But I'm for sure I wasn't sold on Akron yet. And now that John's taken Central Michigan, I for sure am taking the Akron plus 13.5. I got to go with the Zips. I know I'm taking that now. I got to fade John since he took NC State. He left me no choice but to do that. I think it's fair, right?
He forced your hand.
Yeah, exactly. I am. Oh, and I don't even know if I mentioned this, but obviously I'm taking Cuse as one of my best bets this week, minus 3.5. And yeah, I was looking at Coastal against Old Dominion. There's something weird about Coastal this year, minus 10.5. They have a weirdly off record at home as a favorite, but Old Dominion struggled recently. I'll probably take another look at that one. Yeah, I think it's mostly the early games I've been looking at. And we were talking earlier about the U against Vatek. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the U in that one.
Okay.
That's my
move from a lean to a bet. I like that. I like that right at the end of the show.
I'm taking the U.
Again, Chip Murphy 7 on Twitter. He'll be adding to it. He'll be talking on there. He'll be talking Knicks a lot. He'll be talking gambling a lot. We love it. That's why we have him on. That's why we partnered up and did this. Winning P Weekly for us on Twitter. Winning Picks Weekly, wherever podcasts are available. And again, the YouTube, you can always find us on the Knicks, Jets, etc. YouTube page. Like, subscribe. If you're a fan of the Knicks and the Jets, check out John. He'll be
Knicks
back next
week, man.
Season starting, boys. We got the preseason game wrap-ups. I think that episode dropped yesterday. Things are happening. Things are happening in the sports world. If you're a Yankees fan, congratulations. You made it farther than the Mets this year. If you're a Mets fan, the Jets are looking good, baby. We're about to be 4-2, so let's keep it rocking. Let's keep it rolling. See you guys next week.